In this next video, I'd like to introduce you to one of the most impressive art installations I've seen anywhere, and I've been lucky enough to experience it both in an abandoned quarry in the south of France, as well as in my hometown of Chicago, and it centers around Vincent van Gogh. So stick around. A while back, I purchased tickets to something called Immersive Van Gogh, a truly modern art installation and immersive experience that recently had a mostly sold-out run in Chicago and which is touring the world. Ever since I was introduced to Vincent van Gogh, initially through a board game called Masterpiece back in the 1970s, and then in person through several visits to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, starting on my first visit there back in 1985, I've always loved his work, and that of his artistic contemporaries including Toulouse-Lautrec, Seurat, Gauguin, and others. Van Gogh, if you weren't aware, lived a very interesting, if tortured and far too short life. He was born in Zundert, the Netherlands, on March 30th, 1853. For years he worked unsuccessfully as a clerk in a bookstore, as an art salesman, and even as a preacher in Belgium. He remained in Belgium to study art, and at the age of 25 created the dark and somber The Potato Eaters. Between November of 1881 and his death in July of 1890, Vincent van Gogh created close to 900 paintings, just some of which included Starry Night, Sunflowers, Irises, The Night Cafe, The Bedroom, and others. He also created a number of self-portraits that you'll probably recognize. I have great memories of visiting the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, slowly walking through each room admiring his work. Speaking of Van Gogh, my favorite museums are the single artist ones, the ones that are often housed in the artist's home, where you can actually walk through and see how he or she lived, plus visit their studio. I've had the pleasure of visiting Frida Kahlo's home and studio in Mexico City, along with her longtime lover and fellow artist Diego Rivera, also in Mexico City. Additionally, I've had the chance to visit the Picasso Museum in Barcelona, as well as the Rodin Museum in Paris. To me, if you have an interest in a specific artist, this is the best way to learn more about them and to get a real insight into their lives. So if there's a dedicated museum for a favorite artist of yours, be sure to try to visit. To me, this is so much more intimate than seeing just a few of their works amongst so many others at a big museum. So, back to the reason for this video, which is to give you a quick look at the Van Gogh experiences I had in two very different places. The first I had was in Les Baux de Provence, and it was recommended by my friend Patricia Schultz, a fellow speaker of mine at the Travel and Adventure shows, and author of the New York Times bestseller, 1,000 Places to See Before You Die. If you missed it, a while back I interviewed Patricia here on the channel, and you can watch that interview by clicking on the card above. This experience was called Carrières de Lumière, or Careers of Light, and it was held in an abandoned quarry just a few miles away from where we were staying in Maussanne-les-Alpilles in Provence. And please forgive me for my pronunciation. Needless to say, this was an absolutely amazing place to see such an exhibit. There were dozens of high-quality projectors mounted all over the place, each one projecting select works of Van Gogh's over the expansive white walls everywhere. The exhibit brought his works to life, with his painted birds seeming to fly, fields of golden wheat swaying in the make-believe wind, and the musical soundtrack was out of this world and offered a variety of artists from Janis Joplin and Nina Simone to Maria Callas and Miles Davis. The Chicago presentation was held at the Lighthouse Art Space at the Germania Club in the Gold Coast neighborhood, a building dating back to 1888. It's easy to get to if you live in Chicago, and parking is ample. However, the show is now closed in Chicago, but this venue just didn't live up to the one in the south of France. In the end, there was really no comparison between the venues where I saw the exhibit. In Provence, I felt as if I was actually with Van Gogh, who had spent a period of time in this part of France. It's incredible to think that he created some of his most famous works just miles away, and to see the exhibit in a former quarry was simply out of this world. In Les Baux de Provence, the exhibit was held in a former quarry opened in 1800 and closed in 1935. Perhaps it was because we were actually witnessing this incredible show in the heart of Provence, but I found this space to be just magical. It was bigger and so seemed less crowded than in Chicago. The music was more interesting and the sound quality so much higher. Since 2012, the quarry has been used for a number of exhibits showcasing the works of other such geniuses as Dalí, Picasso, Monet, Renoir, and as of this writing, they're currently showing From Vermeer to Van Gogh, the Dutch masters. But do consider visiting Carrière des Luminiers in Les Baux de Provence to experience whatever is on display, as I can't imagine you'll be disappointed. Question of the day. Have you ever visited any of these or other artist museums that you'd like to suggest? Have you had a chance to see the immersive Van Gogh exhibit yet? Let us know in the comments below. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please share it with other great travelers like yourself. And do let me know in the comments if you want to see more like it, and give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss an episode. Next, head on over to the ContinentalDrifter.co website for more interesting travel and photography tips, and to get my latest download. And if you'd like to support the channel, consider purchasing some of my merchandise, and be sure to check out my physical books on Amazon. Links in the description below. And remember, drifters, life's too short not to travel.